Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Raphi Levy on the line, and he's CFO over at Alpha Tau, and this is part of our DealFlow Discovery Conference series where we bring you the best of those who are attending and participating in the DealFlow Discovery Conference. If you haven't been watching this series, that's taking place on January 28th and 29th. There's still time to grab some tickets. It's going to be at the Borgata in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Beautiful, beautiful venue. Raphi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Adam.
All right, so we got a lot to talk about today. So, of course, I want to get into what you're doing at Alpha Tau, and we'll get into the DealFlow Discovery Conference as well. But before we do that, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Raphi, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, for executives, for experts. That's what we do. Raphi, what mission matters to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So I'd say our focus is on making a difference in the life of cancer patients, whether it's patients who have really no available options to them, whether it's patients who have options that are just debilitating, massive side effects, and really impinging on their quality of life. We'd like to offer them a new choice. And so at Alpha Tau, we've developed the Alpha Dart, which is a injection directly into a tumor that looks to release a very potent but very tightly controlled dose of alpha particles. These are incredibly focused, incredibly potent particles. It allows us to use a minuscule dose and yet still to try and go after these tumors that don't have good options. And because it is so tightly controlled and it is so potent, we're able to use that lower dose and really to look to avoid some of those major side effects that you see. So we've had some fantastic luck so far doing this across a number of different tumor types. For me personally, I'd say I find it very meaningful coming as a finance guy. They are hard to find too many other places you can really make a difference in people's lives like this. I had been doing investment banking at Goldman Sachs, focused on healthcare, when I encountered this company, and it was just so obviously differentiated in the way it works, in the technology and in the data. I found it very compelling. I've had an incredible time so far. In particular, just getting a chance to meet the patients and hear some of their stories. And really just because this touches everyone, of course, right? All of us know somebody who's had a horrific experience or unfortunately even a fatality because of cancer. And we all appreciate, I think, that this is an area that really needs some new solutions.
Yeah, it's great. Love bringing mission-based individuals on here to share, how they do what they do, why they're doing it, and really what we're all doing and what we can learn from that to make a difference. So great having you on. I want to stick with something you said a little bit longer. So you were a finance guy or are a finance guy, you're CFO, of course, and you decided to join this company and you have obviously lots of different options. I want you to go further into what made this so special. What made this something where you're like, I got to be part of this?
Sure. Yeah, indeed. I looked at a couple different things. I had a couple clients who asked if I would join back when I was at Goldman. And what got me excited here, honestly, was the data. I tell the CEO all the time, I think the company is great and the people are great. But honestly, the data is just very different from what you see elsewhere. I was spending a lot of time reviewing clinical trials and journal articles from clients I was covering and elsewhere. And you just don't see data like this. Even back then, this was about 7 years ago, before I joined the company, we were already looking at a 100% over objective response rate in our first trial in humans, right? Taking tumors that had tried other options in many cases, tried surgery or tried radiation or both, weren't responding very well. And then you inject this Alpha Dart treatment into the tumor and you just see across the board, you see these fantastic responses. So really, more than anything else, it was just not only is the technology straightforward and easy to understand and intuitive, but the responses and the results were just unbelievable. I think that was really the most compelling part that I saw.
Amazing. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about that upcoming conference. I'm curious, have you been to one of these DealFlow Discovery conferences or is this your first one?
This is my first one, but let's see.
Oh, you're in for a treat, man. I've been coming to this even when it was formerly known as a microcap conference. Great group of people, and you'll meet a lot of interesting things. What are you attending for, by the way? So are you presenting? What's the ask?
Yeah, again, I'm presenting and meeting investors one-on-one, just out there telling our story. I think we've been a little bit under the radar, even as we continue to generate new data and news flow and some real progress across the business. We haven't necessarily had enough eyeballs on the stock. And so while we are well-financed, we're not coming with our hands out looking to raise money. But I think that we really do want to make sure that people know what we're doing, follow what we're doing, and get excited and join the party. I think that those who have been following us for a while have seen that we've always executed very well on our promises. We continue to generate tremendous amount of news flow and hit catalysts and things like that. And I think it just really behooves us to have as many people as possible aware of our story and following along.
Yeah. What cancer types are you exploring that get you the most excited?
Yeah, that's always a good question. Because really everybody has a different answer. I speak to a lot of different investors, and everybody's been touched by something else, has a friend or a loved one who, has either is suffering from cancer or has passed away from it. We have a treatment that we think is relevant to nearly any solid tumor. It's injected directly into the tumor. It's incredibly powerful and incredibly tightly controlled. And so really, as far as we're concerned, we could try it anywhere. We've done this in animals in about 20 different tumor types. We've never seen a tumor type that doesn't respond. So again, we really think that it's up to us to choose where to prioritize and to go tumor by tumor and try it and hopefully show that we can really deliver those same great results elsewhere have we've done in the past. I'd say, we've got a couple of programs running. We're happy to talk about all of them. Whereas historically, we spent a lot of time initially in the skin and the head and neck cancers, those stubborn recurring tumors that don't get easily lopped off or easily radiated. And we've had some fantastic successes there. More recently, we've shifted to focus on pancreatic cancer and on brain cancers, among others. I'd say those are two that probably that are most exciting for us, just because, at least for me personally, there is so little to offer those patients, right? People who are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer or with brain cancers like glioblastoma, those are really, unfortunately, a death sentence. Survival tends to be measured in months for those patients. And so to the extent that our treatment, which we think really isn't different in the nature of the tumor, if it can be relevant for those tumors, that will be incredibly exciting. So having met patients in those spaces, having, obviously friends and family who suffered from those cancers, I think out of all the things that we're doing, that's personally the most exciting. But again, ask somebody else in the company, you'll get a different answer, I'm sure.
How hard is it for doctors to do this procedure?
So in general, the MO that we try to follow is to piggyback off of the way they're already taking biopsies. So it should be very intuitive to them. So for example, when we treat a patient with a pancreatic cancer tumor, we will use the exact same equipment and the same workflow that they're using for taking a biopsy from the pancreas. So if they have a camera, an endoscope that comes into the GI tract and goes down into the stomach, and then a little needle that will come out and puncture into the pancreas and suck out a sample, we will take that off-the-shelf needle and load it with our Alpha Dart injection, with this injection that we've developed, and we will use the same procedure to be able to inject it back into the pancreas. So, they don't need to buy new equipment, they don't need to learn new skills. We had done an R&D day about a year ago where a number of the doctors who were doing this procedure in various cancer types had talked about their experience. And one of our investigators in Montreal who was doing this for the pancreas was asked during the Q&A, can you talk about the learning curve for the doctors? And basically what he said was, look, I'm an endoscopist. I do this for biopsy all day. If you bring me an endoscopist, I'll train them in no time, right? Because they're doing this all the time.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to use that same approach, not only in the skin and the pancreas, but in the brain and elsewhere in the prostate. Right? We've really tried to harness the way doctors are used to working, because the last thing we want to be doing is teaching doctors, right? That's never going to work out well for anybody.
Yeah. And where are you at in the stages of trials or testing right now? Like, where exactly is this and how close to being used?
Yeah, so again, it's a great question, and it's got a number of answers to it because, again, we're trying a number of different cancers, right? So, like I said, we started off in skin and head and neck cancers as a proof of concept. That was a nice place to start because they're right there on the body. You can see them, you can inject right into them and monitor for side effects. And so we've had some great initial luck there. The data, last time we published data in the US was a fantastic study that was led by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. We took these recurring skin cancers, again, coming back after surgery or radiation or both. We saw a 100% complete response rate. Every tumor we treated disappeared completely. And again, no serious side effects in the product. So a very mild treatment with a great outcome. And again, we've seen similar data in lots of other studies. That for that indication, for those skin, head, and neck patients, we're actually already approved in Israel, which is where we started testing this. We've submitted for approval in Japan for head and neck cancers as well, and are looking to hear back there very soon, looking in the next few weeks probably get an answer. But really our focus is on the US, where we are currently in a pivotal study, our last trial for approval for a recurrent skin cancer indication with the FDA, which we hope to finish recruiting patients in the next 2 or 3 months, get data later this year, and submit it for approval to the FDA. So that's moving along very nicely. Again, that's our lead indication because we started there first. Maybe not the most sexy cancer of the ones we're working on, but also a great cancer and on its own, great market, excuse me.
Yeah.
Not a great cancer, but a great market for us to be treating patients in. The pancreas and the glioblastoma and the brain, for example, among others, are newer. So there we're in pilot studies in the US, like a phase 2. We've seen some data from overseas. It's been fantastic data so far, but really we want to focus on getting into an approval pathway with the FDA. And so we're running those pilot studies in the US right now.
Yeah, it's great. Raphi, this has been great having you on today. I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for Alpha Tau?
My gosh, there's so much going on. So it's going to be a really busy year for us. I'd say a lot of stuff to look forward to, just to highlight a few things. Number one, again, look for Japanese response. Maybe we get approved sometime in the next few months, obviously, or even a few weeks, fingers crossed there. Looking to finish treating patients in that pivotal study that I mentioned in the skin cancer, also by the end of this quarter, as well as in the pancreatic cancer pilot study that I mentioned earlier as well in the US. And then a bit later, finishing treating patients in the brain cancer study. And then in the back half of the year, looking for data for all those studies in the skin, in the brain, and the pancreas. Just a tremendous number of milestones coming up here, I think, with some very obvious value creation points if they come out positive. And at the same time, we've gotten a lot of discussions going on now with strategics. Again, I think as we start to raise our profile and move from the skin and the head and neck into just a very broad array of tumors that interest not only doctors and patients, but also massive pharmaceutical companies. We're spending a lot more of our time and my time, really speaking to these companies about ways to work together, just given really the desperate need to find new solutions for these patients. So it's going to be a very busy year. I hope everyone follows along.
Fantastic. And for everybody that's watching, how do they follow along? What's the website, social media? Like, how do people connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are obviously publicly listed on NASDAQ, DRTS. You can follow us on our website, alphatau.com, just like the Greek letters. Sounds like a sorority, but it's not. Alpha Tau, ALPHATAU.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, and obviously on our website, you can sign up for press releases as well. So a lot of places to learn what's going on. And again, just a tremendous amount of activity and updates all the time. So, definitely worth following along.
Fantastic. And for everybody watching, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Yes, you heard me correct. It's daily. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow. And Raphi, man, appreciate all you do, and have some fun over at the Borgata and the DealFlow Discovery Conference for everybody. You can go out there and you'll be able to talk to Raphi and his team directly. Again, that's January 28th and 29th. You can grab tickets at the DealFlow Discovery Conference.com website. So thank you, Raphi, for coming on.
Thank you, Adam. Great to be here.